and the number of people that have these deficiencies in vitamins and nutrients, again, are getting worse and worse. And so often we think, as we get older, we're just like, oh, my wrist hurts, my joints hurt, I don't sleep very well, I have mental fatigue, I can't focus, I have diabetes, I have all these things, but that's okay. It's normal because my friends, my family members, they have the same thing. So I'm supposed to feel like this. And the reality is it's the exact opposite. We're not supposed to feel like that.
Hello, and welcome to the Perfect Franchise Podcast.
I'm Kris, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Andrea.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to help you discover all that franchising has to offer.
We'll explore expert strategies, interview successful franchise owners, and give you the tools to make informed decisions.
So whether you're considering your options or you're ready to take that plunge, we're here to support you every step of the way.
So let's jump into today's episode. Hi, welcome to another episode of the TPF Podcast. Today, Andrea and I are really excited to have Jason Fechter on our podcast. Jason is the founder of IV Nutrition. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Jason. Well, I got the advantage of meeting with you a little bit when we were in Philly and hearing the origin story. But for those listening, fill us in. How did IV Nutrition start? How did it come to life? What were you trying to solve by coming up with this business?
Yeah, so we started about 8 years ago, and I had owned another company, and we focused on paleo, keto, Whole30, AIP, clean foods, and we shipped all over the country. And as a doctor, we had a lot of clients who would call in trying to get better with food. And unfortunately, eating a salad today just isn't enough to really shift that pendulum, right? You needed something a lot more than that. And, fast forward, had all these clients we were working with. My former college roommate, Dr. Tara, had called me. We had both graduated with our doctorate degrees. We parted ways. She went back to Fort Collins. And she called me and said, hey, I want to do a business. You've owned several. I don't know what I want to own, but let's do something together. And I thought, fantastic. She had a CEU seminar planned in St. Louis. I live in Kansas City, so it was an easy drive. And I thought, if anything, we'll catch up. We'll have dinner. We'll have drinks. And we'll just kind of see where life had taken us over the last couple of years. And at this conference, she walked in and she had these really large sores on her lips and her décolleté. And come to find out, she had gotten toxic mold poisoning that manifested into lupus. Her mother and her mother-in-law both had breast cancer. So as she would say, like, her family was falling apart all around her, and she really needed to figure out a way to fix herself. And so at this conference, there was a breakout session specifically on IV therapy. And I was like, well, this is kind of interesting. And we get in there and they start talking about all the statistics about how when we eat foods, it goes through the digestive system and we only absorb 5 to 35%, that 92% of the population has a chronic deficiency in a vitamin or nutrient. 80% of the population has 2 or more deficiencies in vitamins and nutrients, and how, we're just not getting better with food, which is why, if we think about, our parents and our great-grandparents and the number of people that had autoimmune issues, diabetes, pre-diabetic, cancer, celiac, Crohn's, had something going on with their life, that number was significantly less than what it is now. And that's just because we're just not getting the foods from the food, we're not getting the nutrients from the foods that we consume. And so, fast forward, I thought, wow, this is a really cool idea for my clients. And I look at Tara. Tara's like, holy cow, this is fantastic for her. This is what she needs. And I look at her and I said, I think this is it. This is our idea. This is our business. Get home to Fort Collins, sell your business, sell your practice, come to Kansas City. We're going to figure this out. And so we kind of have divided our lanes within IV Nutrition. I'm all things prior to a clinic opening. Tara's all things after a clinic opens. So she kind of did the policies and the protocols, the vitamins, the nutrients, the research. Then I do all things franchising, site selection, agreements, the building layouts, the design work. And I have this really cool picture of Tara walking into our clinic for the first time, and I'm holding a bottle of champagne and a couple glasses. And she comes in, she sees it for the first time, which is the night before we open, and she starts crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope those are happy tears, because we have a 5-year lease and we're stuck. Like, this is what we're doing for the next 5 years at minimum. And it really just kind of took off from there. And the number of people that have these deficiencies in vitamins and nutrients, again, are getting worse and worse. And so often we think, as we get older, we're just like, oh, my wrist hurts, my joints hurt, I don't sleep very well, I have mental fatigue, I can't focus, I have diabetes, I have all these things, but that's okay. It's normal because my friends, my family members, they have the same thing. So I'm supposed to feel like this. And the reality is it's the exact opposite. We're not supposed to feel like that. And so for us at IV Nutrition, there was 2 things that were really important. One, what we were going to do was therapeutic dosages, vitamins, nutrients, right? We're not just a hangover hydration place. We wanted to do so much more than that. And 2, I'm a business guy. We had to make money, and we don't apologize for being profitable. We don't apologize for our franchisees making money, because if they don't make money, then we can't help anybody. And that was really the beginning, right? It was finding a solution for my clients at the food company, Tara finding a solution for herself, and figuring out how to get it to the masses at an affordable rate, right? Back then, 8 years ago, the only way to get this was to go to a functional doc, have a $20,000 lab report done, if you could even afford it or find a place that would do it, and then get this assessment that then may or may not include supplements. And so this was just kind of that solution for all of that.
Jason, thank you for that. So I just want to make sure we're not assuming prior knowledge from our audience. So, couple of questions. One, how would you explain IV therapy to just somebody who goes, IV therapy, what's that? Right.
Yeah.
And then two, you hit on it a little bit. A lot of people that have a little bit of a knowledge of IV therapy, they think of, I had a big weekend in Vegas, I need a hangover cure, right? So talk to us about what it is you're doing and what it practically nuts and bolts looks like. If I walk into a clinic, what's happening to me? How long does it take? Just fill people in. So I want to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about before we go too far.
Yeah, great question. So, there's this huge misconception that, IVs are done by big, scary, mean nurses in a clinical environment, and it's really painful and it hurts and it's sterile and cold and not welcoming. And that's just the complete opposite of what we are, right? A client walks in, we do a full consultation, we'll take all their vitals, blood pressure, pulse ox, temperature. We run a UA to make sure the body can handle the liquids. We look at what they're taking, what they're doing, what they're not doing. And then we just kind of really kind of prepare a protocol that's perfect for that client, kind of based on where they are. And we could do anything from, a quick vitamin B12 or vitamin D shot for $29, which is great for a lot of people, all the way up to $1,000 NAD drip that somebody's trying to biohack and kind of create more energy. And so it's really kind of the whole run of that. But yeah, again, the misconception is that it's all hydration, only for people that we call the silly gooses who drink too much alcohol and in a sterile, crazy environment. And what we really go after are, two primary groups. The first group being the biohackers, right? People who want to live to 150 years old. They are professional athletes. They're traveling. They can't afford to not be on their game, if you will. And then the second group are the sick people. When you are sick and you've got cancer, and you can't eat any longer, you're not drinking fluids, it's an ugly spiral down. And so we see these individuals who are coming in for just simple fluid hydration, right? You can come to us for $95 and get a liter of hydration, spend 45 minutes, or go to the hospital, max out your deductible, and spend the entire day in the ER, right? It's just a very different environment. And so, we really kind of have something for everyone, but we really focus on the functional therapeutic dosages, the things that our body really needs.
So Jason, there's other concepts out there, right, that are doing IV nutrition, whether they're straight sort of IV therapy or whether they're mixing it in with other stuff. So what sets you apart from everybody else out there?
Yeah, so I mean, there's certainly two parts to it, right? As far as the franchisee is concerned, we have the lowest franchise fees, lowest royalties, lowest tech fees, lowest brand fees. We do not nickel and dime. We do not accept royalties, rebates, or kickbacks from any of our vendors. So we negotiate the best pricing possible where our franchisees can purchase from them, being able to maximize their dollars. We do a ton of support with getting the clinics opened, with project managers, hand-holding our franchisees to get them open as quick as we can. We just put a ton into our LMS, our training, our education software. So getting our franchisees the support we need is really, really important, right? That's the thing that we focus on the most. Now, on the client's perspective of things, right, it's the therapeutic dosages. It's the custom blood work. Clients can come in, we can take their blood, send it out to a lab, and create a custom IV bag specific to them on exactly what they are deficient in. Again, we're all deficient in something. We just aren't smart enough to know what that is, or smart enough to know what those deficiencies mean as far as vitamins and nutrients are concerned. So we just take a completely different functional therapeutic dosage, holistic approach versus, now, don't get me wrong, if you have a hangover and I've utilized my services myself, we're really good at that, but that's definitely not what we're really all about.
So you're doing
clarify,
blood work? Yeah, wait, I was going to, probably the same question you have. Yeah. So
ladies first.
They're coming in first, they're getting some sort of blood work and then figuring out what they need. They're not just hanging a standard, banana bag and calling it a day on everybody.
Yeah.
I
So
know.
in
My
some
hospital
situations,
days are
that's
coming out. Sorry, IV nutrition
yeah.
bag.
No, banana bags are great. Little lactated ringers and some B vitamins is good.
Yeah.
No, so typically the client will come in and we do the consultation, we'll do some assessments, and we'll pick the service that most appropriately fits the client's need based on the conversation that we've had. But our stickiness, if you will, of our clients is really high. Right, clients tend to never leave; they just keep coming back over and over again. And so, usually by the second or third visit, the question always comes up, which is, how often do I need this? And is this the right thing? Is there something more? Tell me, I feel great after the last visit. Like, I want more, give me more. And the answer is always the same. Like, we don't know. And nobody knows until we do blood work. And so then we can take the blood, because the blood work has to be fasted. So the client typically doesn't come in having not eaten breakfast or had something to drink that morning. So we need them to be prepared for the blood work. But it's funny. So my dad lives in Central Florida, and every year, at least once a year when he comes up, we always do his blood work. And I always send his panels back to his PCP. And his PCP always jokes with him. It's like the $1 million panel is what his doc calls it, because we check for everything. Way more things than a PCP would ever order for a client, because one, insurance won't pay for it, because if the insurance does approve it and they find out that there's something wrong, then they've got to fix it, and they don't want to, right? It's insurance. It's a business at the end of the day. And so for us, we don't take insurance. We're cash only. So this crazy panel that we run on our clients, a comprehensive panel, is $700, which would cost thousands and thousands of dollars in the hospital setting. We have very little to no markup on that. And that's because that's kind of our gateway. Because once we can tell you, if I'm like, hey, Kris or Andrea, the reason why you're not feeling good is because your blood deficiencies, like, this is really what you need. Now you can't unknow that, right? Now you're like, well, of course, this is why I'm not sleeping well. Of course, this is why I don't have energy. Of course, this is why, whatever the case may be. And now you're going to come in and now we've got you as a great client for a long period of time. So the typical client, now we will have clients who are referred to us by their PCP, their surgeons, their cancer docs, whatever it may be, coming in, getting the blood work, saying, hey, go to these guys, get the blood work done. Let's see what comes of it. Because again, we don't take insurance. We can do a lot of things where they can't, which is kind of cool.
Okay. Well, I know Andrea and I both have personal interest in this topic, so we could just keep going down this path for the whole podcast. So I'm going to take a right, and let's talk business now. For somebody who's looking at IV nutrition from an aspiring franchisee's perspective, what is this business? What would I be getting myself into? Give us the basics. Like, how big is a location? If I start it, how many people do I have to staff it with? What kind of credentials do they have to have? How do I market this business? How do you get the word out? What's the revenue model? Is it recurring, or is it one at a time? Just give us the basics there.
Yeah, great question. So 18 to 2,200 square feet is our average footprint of location. We also have a huge mobile component as well. So not only do you have your brick and mortar clients coming in, you're also able to go after clients at bachelorette parties, golf tournaments, individual consumers home who are too sick to come in. We have groups that do nursing homes. Our elderly population, when it gets really hot outside, they stop drinking or they don't drink enough. And so they set up mobile events, a couple times a week. It's just great cash. I have an accounting office that we go into during tax season, because the owners are like, we can't afford our team members to get sick. So we go in and we hook them all up to IVs. So, there's all kinds of different components that can be added into the business, and that's all. But every franchisee has to have that brick and mortar location, that 18 to 2,200 square feet, because we have a compounding room, a hood system. That's where we mix all the vitamins and nutrients. So that needs to be done. As far as, the individual franchisee, if they're not a healthcare provider, they would need to have a medical director in place to give oversight. And some states have a corporate practice medicine doctrine. We have all the applications in place. We have all the contracts in place. We have medical directors lined up in every single state with redundancy. So the franchisees don't need to find any of that. We take care of all that legwork for them. The employees themselves are typically nurses, paramedics, EMTs. Kind of depends on the state. Every state's a little different as far as who's allowed to administer IVs and within their scope of practice. But again, we do all of that heavy lifting to make sure the franchisees are opening with the most appropriate, employee base. Average location, our record franchisee opened and hit cash flow positive in 3 months, but the average is, really that 9 to 14 months. And we tell franchisees, right? Nobody is going to care about your business more than you will, regardless of the business you own. Nobody will care unless your mom or your dad's working for you. Like, it's just not going to happen. So the more you care about your business by either being present or knowing your KPIs, the faster you're going to hit that break even. But it's just one or the other, right? And so, and then of course, vendors, manufacturers, that's all lined up as well. We take care of all of that, all the blood work, all of the account setups. We handle everything for all of our franchisees.
Talk a little bit about marketing though, because I know a lot, nothing specific to your business, but brick and mortar in general. Sometimes people think, hey, I've got a brick and mortar location. People walk in the door, marketing's done. But that's not the case. So what do you do with them and for them? What do they have to do for themselves? Paint a picture for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly all the big marketing areas is where we play, right? You know, the Meta with the Facebook, the Instagram, and then of course Google AdWords, things along those lines. But beyond that, we send letters out to local doctors to get the referrals. We have the doctors come in to experience who we are and what we're doing, so that they understand it's not just hydration. We do community coffee events where we invite the community in just to experience us, give them all free B12 shots so they can see that we're not big, scary, mean nurses in a clinical environment. Like, it's actually relaxing in a spa-like space. But a lot of that, we handle most all of that, right? But marketing is certainly a group effort, right? We produce all of the content, all the videos, all the ads. We take care of all that. We can put it all on their Meta pages. We have some franchisees that have a sibling or a friend or somebody who's really involved with marketing, and they kind of handle it themselves. So it's kind of a group effort depending on what makes the most sense for that franchisee. But then if a client then sees an ad or a post and then they respond with, hey, are you guys open today? Even though our hours are directly about, right? That would be a response at the clinic level. Our team wouldn't do those individual responses, but we do all the heavy lifting with the content production.
So Jason, you talked a little bit about the mobile unit that goes out to people on a regular basis and people coming in, whether it's, for an injection, just a one time, or whether they're coming back. Is it membership based though? Can you get a membership? Do you have a lot of repeat customers in this model? How does that work?
Yeah, our retention rate is really high. We do have a membership program as well. So our clients often either become a member or they purchase a package. Right? A package would be 10 of the same exact service because their healthcare provider says, hey, you got cancer. You need to go in for this particular service for 10 weeks in a row, right? They would buy a package, would give a better discount. But then, of course, we also have the membership model where we just draft the credit card each month based on what the client's needs are. And so the stickiness of the client, our average client comes in about 4 times a year or once a quarter, which is pretty average for us. Now, of course, we have the two extremes, right? The clients who come in because they have a hangover only once ever a year or once ever only. And then the clients with cancer who might be coming in 2 or 3 times a week. But the average client is once a quarter. And
do medical doctors, they typically send them, they don't want to have them in their facility to do this? They're okay kind of working with you? And do you do that a lot? Is there a lot of collaboration there?
There's a ton of collaboration. One, there's a lot of services we do that hospitals won't offer. And also some docs know, they're like, I know that you need hydration once a week, somebody who has a chronic issue that they have to get IV bags. And the doctor like, yeah, come to us, but you're here all day. You're in the emergency room. This is just not efficient for you to maintain a lifestyle. Go to IV Nutrition, 45 minutes, you're in and out for $95, less than the deductible, right? So, or surgeons, oral surgeons are a huge referrer for us as well. Clients can come in, we can put a ton of amino acids, vitamin C, selenium, zinc, lysine, things to keep the body healthy, but amino acids to speed up the muscle recovery. So clients who are coming in for services pre or post surgery, it just helps to get a better outcome through that process, whatever that may be. So we have a lot of docs who we have an affiliation with. Each market's a little different, but that's something we certainly work for.
So Jason, I know one of the challenges and potential paths for major opportunity is that health and wellness in general is changing very rapidly, right? Thanks to science, AI, technology, people are much more educated. I know I get a lot of information from Instagram. I'm sure some of it's actually true, right? So what's your plan for staying ahead of that curve and adding to the business, innovating with the business? Can you share anything there?
Yeah, so regulation is coming and we actually support it. It needs to happen, right? There are places that are not doing this appropriately. There are places that just that don't follow the rules. And that's where people get hurt. At the end of the day, it is healthcare, right? We are putting a needle into somebody's arm and giving them vitamins and nutrients. Knock on wood, we've never had a single client, patient issue, death, harm, no lawsuits. We don't have any of that because we're very strict to our policies and protocols. It protects all of us. And so the regulation that's coming down the pipeline is important. We were a founding member of AVA, which is the American IV Association. They're putting out a lot of support, and regulation and helping to create what that is and what that should look like. So yeah, I mean, there's regulation coming down, and I think it's absolutely amazing. It needs to happen, and it will actually be better for us players that are doing it right. It's amazing how many clinics you can walk into for an IV service and they never do a blood pressure. There's no pulse ox, there's no temperature, they don't do UAs. They're just like, hey, thanks for coming in. Here's your hydration bag. And it's like, holy cow, like this client could be having a stroke and the last thing you want to do is give him more fluids, or, oh my God, like there's so many things and risks that could be at play that just aren't being appropriately handled. Which again, that's one of the things that's really kind of set us apart. Our policies and protocols are very strict. If a client isn't appropriate for our services, we just don't administer the services. But that keeps everyone safe.
So Jason, to go back to Kris's question a little, and I'm so glad you went into that because I wanted to understand sort of the risk, the liability piece. But what else is kind of coming down the pipeline? Like you talk about sort of the nutrition side of it. Are there other injectables as you're planning for it and you're adding to your repertoire of what you do that people are coming in to get?
Yeah, really great question. So last year we introduced red light therapy, compression therapy, and ozone therapy. Ozone is like one of my favorite things, one of my favorite services. And then right now we are in the process of rolling out HRT, TRT, and peptides. So we've had the Simorlin, the semaglutide, the trizepatide, the GLP-1s, the weight loss services. We've had that for quite some time. We've been really successful in that space. But now we're adding the rest of the more commonly asked for peptides. The HRT, the testosterone replacement therapy, hormone replacement therapy, and then, like I said, the compression, red light, and ozone, and some really cool modalities.
That's great.
Andrea, you want to?
Why don't you do it? You wrap us up today.
Okay. All right. So what we like to do with all our guests, assuming our guests are indeed franchise experts and industry savvy, is we like to end our podcast with a couple of rapid fire questions. So these questions have nothing to do with IV nutrition specifically. These are just for folks that are seriously considering business ownership or already in their first year of business ownership, and they want to learn something from you, Jason. So the first question is, what is one piece of advice you'd give somebody who's seriously contemplating jumping into a franchise?
Yeah, I'd have to say, don't have analysis paralysis. Make the decision, follow your gut, and get to the meet the team day, get to the discovery day, the whatever it is that brand calls it, because that's when the bow is really, that's when everything really comes together. I see it every time we have a meet the team day, right? It's like so often it's like a light bulb goes off and it's like, oh, now I get the whole system, right? So don't be afraid to just jump in, don't have analysis paralysis, and meet the team, get there and just check out the business.
Yep. Okay, so now we're talking to those folks. They already made the leap. They're in their first year of business ownership with a franchise. We know how that first year is. It's up and down, right? Yep. There's at least one night where you go, why did I do this? Right? So someone's in the midst of that. What do you tell them?
Follow the system. Follow the playbook. The franchisor has a playbook. And I tell people, you are buying the book of what to do. But I would argue, more importantly, you're buying the book of what not to do. So call the franchisor, call the team, understand what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and don't shift. Don't make any shifts for the first year. Understand what's going on, make the money, and then make the decision to shift if you want to change your hours or something crazy. But stay in touch with the franchisor.
Yep. Great advice.
Yeah, definitely is. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on and talking about IV nutrition today. I think, the health and wellness space is one that's just growing and becoming so important. And we hear a lot of our clients that are interested in this space because they know that's sort of the future. People are being more in tune with their bodies than they were previously. And so looking for ways to stay healthier longer. So really appreciate you coming on, telling us about this opportunity and helping our guests understand your business a little bit more. So thank you so much. So if you're out there and you're thinking about franchising, remember that while there's no one size fits all, the perfect franchise for you is definitely out there. To explore your options, visit theperfectfranchise.com and click on Let's Talk to schedule a call with a consultant on the Perfect Franchise team. We look forward to connecting with you again on our next episode.